Skyrim is a land defined by mountains. Jagged peaks stretch across the province like the spine of some ancient beast. Snowstorms roll across frozen plains. Rivers carve their way through valleys that feel carved by history itself. Most players remember Skyrim for its forests, its ruins, and its towering cliffs. But there is another part of the province that almost nobody talks about: the ocean. Stretching along Skyrim's northern border lies the Sea of Ghosts, a vast and freezing expanse of water separating Skyrim from the distant continent of Atmora. It surrounds the northern coastlines of Winterhold, Dawnstar, and Solitude, and despite its size, most players barely interact with it at all. You can see it from the shore, you cross it during a few quests, but very rarely do you explore it. Because the moment you step too far into Skyrim's oceans, something becomes immediately clear. It feels empty, unnaturally empty, and the deeper you go, the more unsettling that emptiness becomes. Skyrim encourages exploration. Caves hide ancient artifacts. Mountains conceal forgotten shrines. Every valley seems to contain a story waiting to be discovered. But the ocean is different. When you begin swimming away from the shoreline, the environment quickly becomes quiet. The music fades, the sounds of civilization disappear. Soon there is nothing around you except water stretching in every direction. No ruins, no islands, no distant landmarks to guide you. Just the cold, grey horizon. It feels less like exploring a world and more like drifting beyond its boundaries. And in many ways, that's exactly what you're doing. Within the Elder Scrolls lore, one of Skyrim's oceans has a name that perfectly captures its atmosphere: the Sea of Ghosts. According to the history of Tamriel, this sea separates Skyrim from the frozen ruins of Atmora, the ancestral homeland of the Nords. Thousands of years ago, the first human settlers crossed this ocean to reach Tamriel. Since then, Atmora has become a frozen wasteland, locked in eternal winter. Which means the Sea of Ghosts isn't just cold, it's ancient. It's the water that carried entire civilizations across the world. But by the time of Skyrim's story, that history has faded. Trade routes are sparse, ships rarely travel north, and the ocean has become more of a boundary than a highway. A place people would rather avoid than explore. Part of what makes Skyrim's oceans so unsettling is something psychological. Humans naturally fear deep water. There's even a word for it: thalassophobia, the fear of vast, dark oceans. Games like Subnautica turn that fear into their entire design philosophy. The deeper you go, the more dangerous and alien the world becomes. But Skyrim takes the opposite approach. The deeper you go into its oceans, the less there is. No massive sea monsters, no underwater civilizations. Just an endless stretch of dark water and distant icebergs. And strangely enough, that absence can be even more unnerving, because when the ocean feels too empty, your mind begins filling in the blanks. Of course, Skyrim does technically have aquatic enemies: the slaughterfish. These small, aggressive fish attack players who swim too far from shore. But they're hardly terrifying. They're small, they're easy to kill, and most of the time, they're more annoying than threatening. Which creates an odd contrast. You're standing in the middle of an enormous freezing ocean, and the most dangerous creature you encounter is a fish the size of a dog. For a world filled with dragons, ancient demons, and undead enemies, Skyrim's oceans feel strangely underpopulated. And that emptiness only makes the environment feel more mysterious. Despite the ocean's emptiness, there are still a few hidden details beneath the surface. If you explore carefully along Skyrim's northern coastline, you can occasionally find sunken ships, lost cargo, and the skeletal remains of sailors who never reached shore. These small environmental stories hint at a much larger world beyond the player's view. Trade vessels crossing icy waters, storms strong enough to destroy entire ships, journeys that ended quietly beneath the waves. But these discoveries are rare, and between them lies miles of empty water, which means most players never really see them. As you travel further north along Skyrim's coastline, the ocean becomes increasingly dominated by ice. Massive floating glaciers drift through the Sea of Ghosts, jagged sheets of frozen water blocking navigational routes, and entire coastlines appear permanently frozen. These environments reinforce the sense that Skyrim exists on the edge of a truly hostile world. This is not a warm sea filled with thriving ecosystems. It's a freezing, unforgiving expanse where survival is uncertain. Even the water itself feels dangerous, cold enough to kill, wide enough to swallow ships whole. One of the few locations that truly uses Skyrim's ocean is Japhet's Folly. This isolated island appears during the quest Rise in the East. To reach it, players must travel across the Sea of Ghosts to confront a group of pirates threatening trade routes. For a brief moment, the ocean becomes central to the experience. Storms rage across the water, ships battle in the distance, and the island itself feels like a remote outpost far from civilization. But once the quest ends, most players never return. The ocean fades back into the background, a massive environment with surprisingly little reason to visit. Part of the reason Skyrim's oceans feel empty is purely technical. Skyrim was designed in 2011. Rendering a fully explorable underwater world would have required enormous resources. Instead, Bethesda focused its attention on land-based exploration. Mountains, cities, dungeons, ruins. The ocean became more of a visual boundary than an active part of the world. And while this decision made sense from a developmental standpoint, it also created one of the strangest environments in the entire game, a massive ocean with almost nothing in it. Despite its simplicity, Skyrim's ocean can still produce genuinely unsettling moments, especially when you travel far from shore. Imagine swimming north from Winterhold. The land slowly disappears behind you, the sky turns grey, icebergs drift silently across the water, and eventually, you realise something strange. You are completely alone. No NPCs, no ships, no land, just the distant horizon and the quiet sound of waves. In those moments, the ocean feels less like part of a map and more like a void surrounding it. A reminder that Skyrim is just a small piece of a much larger world. If you swim far enough into Skyrim's oceans, you eventually reach the invisible boundaries of the game's world. You can't travel to Atmora, you can't sail to distant continents. The map simply ends. But the lore suggests that beyond that invisible barrier lies an enormous unexplored world. Frozen lands, lost civilizations, ancient histories buried beneath ice and snow. The Sea of Ghosts isn't just empty water. It's the border between what the game shows you and what it leaves to your imagination. Skyrim is remembered for its epic moments. Dragons circling above mountain peaks, battles between ancient warriors, journeys across frozen landscapes. But sometimes the most memorable experiences are the quiet ones. Standing on a northern shoreline, watching waves crash against icy cliffs, and staring out into a sea that stretches farther than the game allows you to travel. The Sea of Ghosts is vast, cold, and strangely empty. Yet that emptiness carries its own kind of atmosphere. It reminds you that Skyrim is only one corner of a much larger world. A world where entire continents lie beyond the horizon, waiting somewhere out there beyond the silent water at the edge of the map.